Oh, you got her, dude. She's down.
Let's go.
Dude, I just shot a deer of a lifetime.
Freaking smoked him.
One with nature, and if you're a believer, one with God.
Definitely gets your heart pumping. Boy, you are in trouble.
Fall Obsession Podcast.
All right, guys, welcome back to another Fall Obsession Podcast episode. Fall Obsession Podcast is driven by our friends at Ridge Rock Hunt Company, and we'll give them a proper shout out in the sponsor segment at the end of the episode. I'm Sam Thrash, your Fall Obsession Podcast host. Thank you for joining me this week. Back on here with a couple of our Fall Obsession staff members. We got our media production manager, Nick Powell, back with me. What's up, Nick?
Hey, what's up, Sam?
We also got our pro staffer and our Western Regional Coordinator, Tim Berges, with us. What's up, Tim?
Hey, how you guys doing?
Doing good, man. So this podcast is going to be, it's one of our more educational topics, and I didn't get a chance to even look back and remember the episode, but we kind of did something similar to this last year, Tim, you and I, talking about some key draw dates and information that you guys need to know if you're looking at going out west. I know exclusively Colorado, Tim, that's where you're from and where your area of expertise is and all that kind of stuff. So this episode might be kind of information overload, but if you are looking at a hunt out west, a hunt in Colorado, over-the-counter elk, all that stuff in that area, this is an episode to listen to. This is an episode to take notes on. I know I'll be taking some notes myself. I'm by no means an expert. Tim's the expert. That's why he's with us here today. If you're watching the podcast video for this episode, you'll see that Nick is already in the right state of mind with the mountainous background back there. So we're all sitting here a little jealous of Nick, who's apparently already gone up there ready to hunt. So
it's not even as cold as I would have thought.
Yeah, it's
it's
freaking March, man. What are you doing up there?
Well, it is like 55 up here today, so yeah, it's not cold at all.
Perfect.
So yeah, yesterday was in the mid 60s, so yeah, you could have t-shirt and short it like I did.
That's what I'm talking about.
There you go. All right, so we're going to dive in and get into all of this. Tim, you're the one you've prepared and done a lot of research for this podcast episode and everything. Really appreciate that first off. But, man, I'm going to kind of turn it over to you and let you kind of steer this conversation and talk to us a little bit about what do we need to know this year for coming out there and hunting. And let's hit it. Let's go at it.
Sounds good. So, yeah, we'll kind of start out first with like the dates, because that's always the thing, and we'll hit it at the end again because it's obviously what matters. So draw's open. It opened March 1st, so it's open at this point. It closes April 5th at 8 p.m. Mountain. If you're late, you're screwed, so don't be late. April 5th at 8 p.m. Mountain. Set your calendar for April 4th. That way you actually get it done. So just a heads up on that. We'll start there. Kind of how it works, and this is a question that a lot of people always ask, is what do I have to do to actually put in for the draw? And so there's a couple things you can do to buy what they call the qualifying license. And so I'm going to cover that to start with, and we'll kind of get into it from there. So qualifying license is either the annual small game or a spring turkey tag. So for most people, they buy the small game because it's cheaper. Even for residents, it's cheaper. So most people, unless they're already going turkey hunting, will probably buy the small game. And then you can use it to hunt, pheasants and whatever else. So when you guys buy it and come up and hunt with me, you can come hunt pheasants too, whenever you slackers get on that. So we'll get that figured out one of these days. But so that's the big thing is when you go into your cart, and we'll make another video where we show how to actually do this on the website. But you'll make your cart. The first thing you have to add is that either spring turkey tag, which it still hasn't become spring season yet, so you could buy that. But like I said, it's more expensive for non-residents. $160.67 for a spring turkey tag. So that's an expensive little Thanksgiving dinner. But if you're going to come up and hunt it, you might as well do it. Whereas the annual small game non-resident is $86.50. So still pretty hefty, but not as bad, half as much. And the other thing you have to put in your cart and have to buy is a habitat stamp. So these are, you have to buy one every year unless you buy the forever one, which the forever one's like just over $300 right now. I screwed up and didn't buy it when it was 300 a few years ago. And I should have, because every year it's $10 and change. It goes up every year because the way Colorado does their tag system is basically the cost of living index increases the price of the tags and application fees and everything at that rate. So like on that, it's $10.59 now. So I think it's its third or fourth year of increase. It's not a ton of money, but I could have, paid it off in 29 years at this point if I had bought it back when it was $300 instead of 30. So I'm kind of kicking myself, but it's too late now, and I'll probably just keep buying them yearly because that's the way it works. It's a lot cheaper, a lot easier on the wallet. So you do those two things. You put them in your cart. Then you'll go onto the website and you'll select and you'll go search for the species you want. And if you haven't made an account with Colorado Parks and Wildlife, it's pretty easy. They'll give you a CID number, and it'll show up on your license. And that's how you'll know like your information. So really, the other key is if you have one, save your license for next year because you're going to need that number every single year. So I always just keep mine in a stack, literally on the shelf, as you saw. I just pulled it off from next to me. So when I need it, I just know where it is and you grab it from last year's and all the previous ones. And it makes it a reminder of like, hey, what did I actually draw last year? And you have it right there and you can look at it and be like, was that actually worth it or not? And so that's the thing that I do that I think really helps. But so after you put in, and then you select what animals, like you go in and you'll select your animal, and then you'll put in your hunt code. And this is the part that I think everybody gets really confused on. What do all these numbers and letters and all that junk mean? And so the first letter is the letter of the animal. So it's a D for deer, E for elk, A for antelope, B for bear, T for turkey, and I forget, I think mountain goat's M, bighorn is R, I believe, and I believe moose is M as well. But that part will automatically pre-fill for you once you put in for it. Like once you choose the animal, the first letter will fill. The next letter is either a D, is either an M, an F, or an E. And so this tells you M for male, F for female, or E for either sex. And so we really want to be careful when you're looking through the book to find your codes. And to give you an idea, this is the book that you want to have. And the hunt codes are in the back, starting on page, what page is it this year? 22. And there are pages and pages and pages of codes. And this is just for the deer, elk, antelope, moose, and bear codes. And there are 65 pages of codes. And every single one's pretty much full top to bottom. There's quite a bit. So you really want to be careful on making sure you put in your code correctly. Because like I said, the M, E, or F determines either sex, male, female. The next thing will be three numbers. Those three numbers tell you what unit or units that tag is good for. So for example, I'll just pull an easy one to find that'll make sense. Elk tag we'll do the deer tag I put in for because elk tag's not going to make any sense to most people. So the deer tag I put in for is DM093. So it tells you it's unit 93, which is way northeast Colorado. In the book, in the brochure, it'll have a picture with all of the units laid out. Let's find one that's not super chewed up, and I can show you. Looks like this, but you'll definitely want to look at it carefully and make sure you know the area you're talking about. And then double check with Onyx that is the area you actually want to put in for. Make sure there's actually public land there if you're looking at that. Or if there's private land, make sure with whoever you're hunting that's actually the correct area. Sometimes their ranch will be in multiple units, and they'll want you to put in for a different one, based on, hey, part of it's in this unit, part of it's in this unit, but this is where we see the animals. So keep that in mind. So like I said, it's DM093, and then 01 tells it's the first season, and then R, which tells it's the rifle season. So every unit will have a 01, 02, 03. Some will just have 01 and then L1, It just kind of depends. That's the season number. And then the last, like I said, the last code is R for rifle, M for muzzleloader, or X for season's choice, which I'll cover what season's choice is in a second, or A for archery. So you really want to make sure that you get every single piece correctly, because if you draw the wrong tag, you're kind of stuck with it. The rules changed a little bit this year, where if you do draw the wrong tag, which the draw happens in the first week of June, you can turn it back in within 3 days of the last draw. So I believe it's June 6th is the last day of the draw. And then you can turn it back in by June 9th and not have to lose your points or pay for that tag. That's new this year. Wasn't that way before. It used to be, if you get the wrong one, you either have to pay for it to return it and get your points back, which is obviously what you do as a non-resident because you're paying a lot of money. Or, I mean, if you had a ton of points, you might not. You might eat the $600 or $700, but otherwise you're but this year you can turn it in and get your points back in stuff. So make sure when you do have it come back in June, double check everything right away and make sure it's all right. And if not, get on returning it right away and get it taken care of. But the X, which is kind of rare, is for season's choice. What that means is that tag can be used during an archery season, a muzzleloader season, and a rifle season until you fill the tag. So like the whitetail tag I had last year was a season's choice. So the season was October 1st to October 28th for archery, then October 29th to November 8th for rifle. During that archery season, there was an October 8th to 16th muzzleloader season. And then November 9th to November 30th was another archery season. And then December 1st to December 14th was a rifle season. And December 15th to December 31st was another archery season. So you get a ton of time to fill your tag. They really want you to kill something is what these come down to. And that's great because they're mainly plains whitetail tags, so you get a really high success chance if you do draw a season's choice deer tag. But you got to be at a point. Most of the places do not have any public land, so really keep that in mind and only put in if you have land access, because otherwise you're not going to have a whole lot of success when you're begging, pleading, and prodding to try to get on somewhere, after 3 months of no luck, 2 months of no luck. So keep that in mind. With if you have a really long season, it's probably either no public land or a really high abundance of animals, but they're all in places you can't really get to. So that's one thing to keep in mind there.
It's a lot different than Texas, Nick.
Yeah, no kidding. Is the any season tag, Tim, is that something that is drawn randomly, or is that something that we, like as a non-resident or resident, you can put in for? Is that a resident only?
So the season's choice are anybody can put in for them for deer. There are a couple for moose that I believe are resident only, and they take a ton of preference points anyway, so it's not something you're going to do this year.
Gotcha.
But those are anybody in like the one by me. So it's good for unit 93, 97, 98, 99, and 100. Well, basically what that is, to give you a visual picture, is Brighton is the first town like northeast of Denver on Highway 76. So we're talking like just north of the airport, a DIA airport here. Everything south of 76 from there to the state line within like 30 miles of the highway is in this area. It's like 150 miles long by 30 miles wide area that's covered by this tag. So it's a ridiculously huge area. But again, there's like almost no public land in it. There's one or two larger areas sort of in some of the other units, but not much. So definitely make sure, like with these tags, like if you get one of those, make sure you're in an area that actually has some ground you can actually hunt, or make sure you have permission ahead of time. Because even with that long of a season, if you're public land in 93, there's I think 207 acres, and they're all in one spot, and it's extremely highly hunted, and it's basically a bunch of trees around a field that they plow, and every winter they plow it over, so it's basically dirt. So you're looking at like a single set of trees around a dirt patch and hoping that something is in there. And there's always dudes there. I drive by it all the time, and there's always like 3 or 4 dudes there hanging out. It's right by my uncle. It's about a mile from my uncle's house, and it's like, so we drive by there a lot, and it's like there's 3 dudes hanging out in like one corner and 2 dudes in the other corner, and there's never anything that walks through there. So keep that in mind if you are looking at a spot. Like if there's public land and it's small, there's probably a reason that there's a lot of tags in that area.
Yeah.
So so that's kind of like the way the deer you have to put in and draw, no matter what kind of deer you want. I guess there is one caveat that there's a late season rifle over the counter either sex whitetail tag in a bunch of areas that have almost no whitetail deer and they have zero public land. So it's like basically it's Colorado Springs south to the border, long 25, but there's really like almost no public land in any of those units. And the one unit that does have a piece of public land, you can't hunt that big piece of public land. It's excluded from the tag. So it's like there's one like large wildlife area that's a couple thousand acres, and that's like that piece is excluded. So have fun hunting around that. So,
of course.
Yeah, so it's like I want to say that Brendan Scott, field staffer or pro staffer, hunted one of those units that this tag's good for. Got his elk there. So it's like it's a great unit for other stuff, but it's it's like the edge of the mountains basically, where on the very eastern edge in the rivers there's deer, whitetails, but not many. So keep that in mind. If there is this one random over the counter opportunity, you better know somebody that's got some ground to have a realistic chance at success. Elk, on the other hand, there are a ton of really good over-the-counter options. So for archery, you can do antlerless, so cows, or you can do either sex or bulls. So there's a couple different options there depending on what you put in for over-the-counter. And over-the-counter, all the over-the-counter tags go on sale in August. I believe it's August 2nd, which is the same day the leftover tags go for sale, which we'll get into what that means in a little bit. But if you're going to buy an over-the-counter tag, wait till August 4th or so to go into the computer to do it, because August 2nd, the computer dies for CPW because every single person in the world is trying to get a leftover tag. And so their computer system totally dies. And like last year, I was like logged in. It opens at 8, and it won't let you like log in before like 7. I was in at 7:01 is when it like went through on my computer, and I was number 9,007 in line.
Holy cow.
Literally, like, and I was like, I pushed the button at 7 and went through at 7:01. And of course, I was just kind of in there because there was one tag I might have wanted if it stayed, and it didn't. So I was, it was probably gone in the first 50 or 100 people. You can go to a store and like wait and have somebody at the store help you. Which, if you're going to do that, make sure that the place you go to is going to be open when the draw opens. Like, I know a lot of Cabela's around here and stuff like that aren't actually open until like an hour later. And so then you're screwed if you're not there. And so it just kind of depends. And if you do go somewhere, make sure that the person that you're going to deal with knows how to use the license machine. I've had plenty of experiences dealing with trying to get somebody a license, and the person doesn't know how to do it. Their system doesn't work, whatever. Like when Todd came out for our staff hunt for pheasants in 2020, whatever that was, like in January that one year, me and him, I'd called a gas station that was on the way up the farm and talked to him like, yeah, we sell license. And I knew they sold license. I called them, make sure they're open 24/7. Their thing works 24/7. Cool. I called them on like Tuesday, and Friday we drive out, or Thursday night we drive out there, and their computer hadn't been hooked up in 2 years.
Oh my God.
They told me literally 2 days before, yeah, we sell them all the time, no problem. We get out there and the computer's never been not even plugged in. But he goes, I don't know. It's like there's a special like printer thing they have to have. Yeah. It has like the old school like half shell like receipt printer thing, because it prints these really weird worthless things. And then, of course, they don't even have that. So it's been like forever. And of course, like there you have a huge sign that's next to the highway. We sell hunting licenses and fishing licenses. It's like, nope, you don't. So he had
not with that machine.
You're supposed to, but you don't.
Yeah. So he had to go to town early the next morning and go to the grocery store when they opened to get one. We missed the first field of the day. It wasn't a huge deal, but things like that, definitely try to get that taken care of. One other note on the over-the-counter things, they mail those to you if you buy them online, and they take about 3 weeks to mail anything. It's really, really slow. So if your tag is less than 3 weeks away, there's a way to tell it that you want to go pick it up in person. Obviously, if you live here, it's no big deal to drive over to Walmart and just tell them you buy it and then go pick it up. Whereas if you don't live here, you may still want to do that, and just when you get here, go right to a Walmart or something, get it right away, and get it taken care of. I know this last fall, like last year, I ended up finding a second tag on the leftover list for deer, and I had 4 weeks till the season started. So I was like, I got plenty of time when I hit this button for it to get here in the mail. But in the back of my mind, I was like, I should probably just go pick it up. I ended up waiting for the mail, and it came no problem. But I was a little bit stressing when it got there like Monday, and the season started on Saturday. So I was a little stressing there for a little bit. But it's possible. But definitely keep that in mind. If it's less than 3 weeks, you'll probably just want to go pick it up, or at least tell them that and go do it.
Yeah.
So like I said, for archery, there's both antlered and either sex and antlerless, and bull. That season, September 2nd to September 30th. There's a ton of units that are in all of those. Again, one thing to think about is, where is this? Are there actually elk there? So like you'll see, this is probably can't really tell, the antlered map. Everything on this side is east of I-25. There aren't a whole lot of elk out there, and there's really not a whole lot of public land out there either. So there are a few places where you'll find them, and when you find them, there's a ton of them on some dude's cornfield. And so if you get lucky enough to know that dude, and he wants you to shoot the elk, you're in a good spot. But if you don't know that dude, and you're not going to have a chance, realistically, out east. So keep that in mind. Definitely don't buy. They also have a late rifle season that's open for like September 1st through the end of the year, every year, for the eastern elk. Same thing. If you don't know somebody who has elk on their place, you're wasting your money. Especially as a non-resident, because you're going to spend $700 and you're going to look around and be like, oh, there's not a single place I can get to that is elk out here. So good. Like, there's an elk tag for where my farm is. There hasn't been an elk near my farm in my whole lifetime. Literally, we have not seen an elk in the unit in my lifetime, and there's an elk tag you can buy out there. So one thing I should cover here is A, B, and C tags. So an A tag is a tag that it's basically, think of it as a primary tag. So you can only have one A tag, no matter how you get it, whatever. If you dry it, you buy it over the counter, you buy it late. So anything that's bull or either sex, almost every bull tag, or every bull tag, and almost any either sex tag is going to be an A tag. The Season's Choice whitetail deer tags I was talking about earlier, those are like one of the rare exceptions where the either sex is actually a B tag. But so if you get an A tag, that's your one option. So for example, if you wanted to do an archery elk hunt, you can buy the A tag over the counter. So you've got a bull or either sex tag, depending what unit you're in. Then, like, especially as a resident, you may not want to do this as a non-resident because it's expensive, but you could buy the over-the-counter antlerless, so cow tag, it's a B tag. So you could have both a cow and a bull tag. Obviously, that's really helpful when you're out hunting. As a resident, it's like $107 to do that, $110. No big deal, whatever. Yeah. For you guys, it is, let me pull my numbers because it's going to make me laugh.
Oh, yeah.
How much money you're going to spend on this.
Ridiculous.
Sorry, I got to pull it up. I have it all in that lovely article we're going to release to help with this.
Yeah, while Tim's looking for that for just a second, like I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, this is for our viewers and for our listeners. A lot of information that we're putting out here today in this podcast, but Tim did put a lot of this, and I haven't even had the chance to look through all, what was it, 17 pages, I think, something like that?
Yeah.
I haven't even had a chance to look through all of it and get all the information myself, but a lot of this info, and maybe even a little more, Tim has put into a series of articles that will be released on our website, fallobsession.com, as well. So podcast video here this upcoming week, fallobsession.com, all that's going to have these resources for you guys to go back and pull from kind of as you need. So anyway, go ahead, Tim.
Yep. So basically, in the article, just to talk about it for a second, I put every single type of tag you could get for every single animal for like the main four. So deer, bear, elk, antelope, and then I cover how the moose, mountain goat, and bighorn sheep draws work because they're kind of a different thing. And they're sort of more complicated and they're a lot more expensive to get into. We'll cover that when we get to those because they're more fun to talk about because it's like a once in a lifetime thing. But also you're like, every year I got to pay money to just draw a preference point. This sucks. Mm-hmm. Anyways, so like I said, for resident, it's $57.90 per elk tag. So like I said, it's about $110, not quite, to have 2 elk tags. Whatever, that's cheap. For you guys, the bull or either sex tag is $700.98, and the cow tag would be $526.17. So you're at $1,230, not quite. And so you better bring home an elk for that, and so
no kidding.
Yeah.
Not to mention everything else that goes to cost that. But so for me, whenever I've had a chance to have both tags, I've always had both tags because if you only have one, it always works out where you only see that one. Like when I was a kid, my dad would always just buy me the bull tag just because kids' tags are so much cheaper. So if you have a child that's 12 to 17 that wants to hunt in Colorado, even as a non-resident, like the tags are all around $100. And then bear tags are substantially less than that. So definitely if you have a kid that wants to hunt here or you want to hunt here and bring your kid, it's way cheaper to bring your kid and have them buy both tags than you just buy one. So keep that in mind that if you do have like a 15-year-old, it's probably wise to have them buy 2 of them because they can buy 2 of them for less than you can buy one. So good workaround there.
You think your boy's ready to hunt yet, Nick?
Yeah, it's going to be a few years.
Say that here they do have a minimum age of 12 for big game. So when your kiddos get closer, guys, we'll figure something out.
I was gonna say I'm gonna start training with my 4-year-old. We got to start
about 9 years left.
Yeah, we got to start working on stuff.
Yeah, I can say my daughter's turning 3 in 2 days, so I'm right where you guys are at too. So
yeah. My son just turned 3 2 days ago. So there.
Right here. So anyway, so definitely something to consider. Or like if you're going with a group of guys and one person, maybe multiple people don't care about cow versus bull, it might make sense, especially if you're just doing all over the counters, to split up like who has what, so that you can, cover if you have a cow or a bull. So also on that point, rifle seasons for elk, for second rifle and third rifle, there's an over-the-counter bull tag. Not all the units, but some of the units that's good for, and like especially one that I hunt, and I'll cover in a little detail in a second. You can get a cow tag and then like draw it really easily or with no points or whatever, and then buy the bull tag. So what I've always done is like for elk, I usually hunt in unit 3/301. So that cow tag, you can like even as a non-resident, it's like 100% draw if you put it as your first choice. If you put it as your second choice, it's like a 95% draw, which means that you'll earn a preference point and draw the tag. And so I've always done that, and I've drawn it twice or 3 times that way recently, where I've been able to earn a preference point and draw a tag. And then I have the option to buy the bull tag. So I had both tags and got a preference point, and it cost me like an extra, cost of one license for just getting one or the other. So it's a great way to do it if you are in a unit with a lot of animals that has either limited public land or just has a lot of animals and has a lot of tags, but they're migrating, like unit 93 and 301 are. They're huge migration units. Whereas if it snows, the elk are moving. And if it's not, you're kind of screwed unless you have to be on one of the random few spots where they're actually resident elk. The elk migration starts in like September and goes all the way through. I was up there in January this last year with that special tag I had, and they were still migrating the same way at that point. And when we saw some of the days, we saw thousands of elk in January. Whereas, there's a ton of elk up there. It's just a matter of getting to the right thing. On that note, most of the over-the-counter rifle tags or over-the-counter elk over-the-counter bull tags have a point restriction. So what I mean by that is the elk have to have 4 antlers and a brown tine on one side. So you have to shoot a bigger bull, which is cool because you're shooting a bigger bull, but they're not very common. In my 2020 season, I saw 1 legal bull the entire time. And that was it. I only saw 2 other bulls, and we saw like 35 cows, but we only saw 1 legal bull. So if you are going to sell out and just get an over-the-counter like bull tag, just realize that you're looking at a small percentage of animals. There may be 1,000 elk, and there may be 3 in that whole herd that are legal. It's usually not quite that bad, but in a herd, a smaller herd like of 30 to 50, there's probably 1 or 2 legal bulls. So,
and so you said 4
plus a brow tine.
4 plus a brow tine. Okay.
Yeah. So the brow tie, you have to have brow ties on both sides, and then 4 on one side.
Gotcha.
So, and the main beam obviously doesn't really count until you get to the very back point. So you have to see 3 other additions besides the back one.
Okay.
It's pretty easy to tell because the elk antlers are big, but definitely if you are questioning it all, don't shoot it because it's a huge fine and probably 5 years minimum loss of hunting privileges for 48 states if you screw up.
Wow.
So, it's not worth it. If it's questionable, don't shoot it. And then on the cow side of things, if there's like even a tiny little antler, it's not a cow. So you'll get somewhere like the antler will be like as tall as their ears, and you'll like not see it. Usually, if you call CPW and let them know, they like don't kill you on it, but it is an issue. So definitely really make sure that, hey, this really is a antlerless animal. There is no antler on this animal. You'll see some spikes where they'll break it off at 3 inches above their head or 5 inches above their head. And you won't notice it till, something happens. So definitely really take a good look at their head. If you can't tell, don't shoot. Take your time on that. You guys have any questions on elk? Because obviously, I've kind of covered a bit. I figured if you have questions, somebody else has questions.
Man, I don't have anything coming to mind. I mean, honestly, not just for listeners, for me too. Like we've already mentioned a couple times, a lot of information. I know for me to fully get the grasp of it, I'm actually planning on going back and listening to this podcast again after we publish it to make sure that my notes are right and add some that I might have missed. But I don't have any questions right now. Unless you got anything to add, we can move on to what you got next. So
yeah, well, I'll just go back to deer for 1 second. So deer, either a buck or a doe tag or either sex tag are all the same price. And those are $420.23 non-resident or $42 and a penny for residents. And then I said for non-resident kids, it's $107 and 43 cents. One thing to note on all of the non-resident tags, they do include a fishing license. So you might as well fish while you're somewhere because you paid for it. So keep that in mind. You do get a fishing license with it. And other thing to note, if you want to just put in for just a preference point for any of the animals, the preference points code is, you remember how I was talking about what all the things need? It's P99999P. And I wrote, and it's not in the article, I put it with every single animal, so it's pretty easy to tell that that's a preference points code. But what that'll do, if you put that in, like I was talking about earlier for the elk, if you put that in as your first choice, because you can list 4 choices for tags you want. So you put that in as your first choice, it'll guarantee you a preference point. And then you list that cow tag that I keep drawing, which I'll hotspot, I don't really care because there's so many up there, it's never going to make a difference, is EF00302R. So you put that as your second choice, you're likely, maybe not guaranteed, but likely to draw that cow tag as well as get that preference point. So not only are you pretty likely to get a cow tag this year, you're guaranteeing yourself a better chance at something better next year. For most animals, 3 points is about this place where you start getting into a better tag. So basically 3 years of not drawing or doing this system where you draw something that's, not quite as good, or you draw something that's going to be there anyways. So it's wise to, even if you're not planning on going this year, to start putting in your upfront costs. Let's go back to that. Sorry, I'm just going through the article. Your upfront costs, if you are going to put in, and that's not right. Oh, is for a non-resident to put in for one animal is $106.26 to cover that just in detail for if you buy a small game. By the turkey tag, it's $180.43. Each additional animal to build points is $9.17, except for moose, mountain goat, and bighorn sheep. Those have an additional charge of $100 per preference point for a non-resident or $50 for a resident. So that adds a bunch of money if you start putting in for those. But let's say this year you just put in for deer. For $9.17, you can get an elk point. For $9.17, you get an antelope point. For $9.17, you get a bear point. In my opinion, bear points are kind of a waste because there's a lot of good 0-point bear units, and to get into like a really, really good bear unit, you're in like the mid-20s. So like for me, building bear points is no big deal because it's like $7.13 a year to do so. But if you're gonna not hunt in Colorado every single year, if you don't put in for 3 years, you lose your points. So it's kind of like, if you're going to do this every year, it might make sense to build bear points. If not, you're probably just as good just to kind of hunt the bears that are there. Because to get a really, really good tag is, like I said, mid-20s. So but big difference there. Anyways, so we'll go to antelope next, which I know is probably Sam's favorite and one he wants to talk about the most. So
something about those speed goats, man. They just tickle my gizzard.
Same price as deer. So again, $420.23 for an adult, $107.43 for a kid, $42 and a penny for a resident, or $16.32 for a resident kid. So my daughter's gonna get down a lot more than your kids because 10% as much. So.
Well, yeah, you live in Colorado. I'd expect that.
I will say though, when I came down and hunted with you guys for the staff hunt in 19, the amount that I paid for that license was like $330, if I remember right.
Mm-hmm.
And I got 7 deer tags, the 2 mule deer and the 5 whitetail.
Yeah.
It would cost me more money to buy 7 deer tags in Colorado than it would. Like, it would take multiple years to do it, of course, but it would cost more money to buy those 7 deer tags than it did there, plus the 4 turkey tags that I got. And I filled 3 of those, turkey tags.
Yeah, we're doing a podcast today over all this stuff Colorado. I'll tell you in like 10 seconds that $330 gets you 5 whitetail tags, 2 mule deer tags, and 4 turkey tags in the state of Texas. Non-resident. Boom, that's it. We've just covered Texas.
Yeah, Texas is done.
Yeah, and it's like $7 if you want to use a bow. It was super cheap.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
It was amazing. I was like, what? And it came in the mail, and I was like, you just punch this thing out, and you're good to go. And it's way more complicated here, but that's the way it works.
Yeah.
Anyway, so pronghorn. There are a lot of options. One of them is over the counter. It's archery. It's kind of odd where the first part of the season, so season's August 15th to September 20th. From August 15th to the 31st of August, it's buck only. And then it switches to either sex after that for the rest of it. It's good in a lot of areas that actually have a lot of pronghorn, but so the pronghorn map, I'll pull it up. Probably can't really see it. So it's basically eastern Colorado and then spots in the mountains. So the spots in the mountains are mostly places where there's very few, if any, pronghorn. So you want to keep that. If you are looking at, hey, I want to go to unit 23, which is on here, you better know somebody who's got some ground in 23, or at least have scouted it extensively to know where some pronghorn live in 23, because there's not many pronghorn in 23. For example, whereas like my unit 93 is in here, there's not many pronghorn there either, and they're all like right near the highway, the few that there are. and the land access is pretty poor. Like it's like basically 3 guys own most of the stuff where they live, and so if you know those 3 guys and they like you, you get a chance. And if not, you're wasting your time. So, but there are a lot of areas around near Lyman, which is a town southwest Colorado, where there are quite a bit of pronghorn. This unit, all these are in there, and there's actually like here and there a semi big area of public land here and there. But again, there's a lot of private, and they definitely hang on the private more than they hang on the public. So if you are going to do the over-the-counter archery pronghorn, it's a big-time scout job. You want to get out here, expect to spend most of the season out here. Like I said, it's a month-and-a-half season for a reason. It's a little over a month season for a reason because it's hard.
Yeah.
And it's bow only, so that makes it a little harder yet. I know all the pronghorns taken near me, taken usually by one of my neighbors. He gets all the tags every year, it seems like, because there's 10 tags, and he draws one almost every year, so that's a pretty high percentage. He's got a bunch of landowner tags, so he can basically space them out where he draws it every year, pretty much continuously. But his shortest shot on one up by us was like 230. So you're not going to do that with a bow, and you're shooting across open landscape with nothing. So that's a little different down in, like I said, near Lyman and some of those other areas down there where they have more pronghorn and slightly better land access, but you definitely want to know what you're getting yourself into with those.
Right.
It's a great option to get out and do something, but definitely keep that in mind. As for like rifle tags for pronghorn, a lot of the good ones take a lot of points. I'm gonna pull this thing just to give an idea. Like I said, there's 10 pronghorn tags by my farm. There's very few pronghorns out there, but I want to say it's like 7 preference points to possibly draw one of those tags. Let's see. Sorry, guys. It looks like, okay, so it's 3 preference points last year, which I guess it was a lot less than it has been in the past. On the landowner side, it takes way more, so that's what I'm usually used to thinking about, because we don't really put in for our own out there. Because I really want to hunt up near, like where I hunt elk. I want to go up there for antelope, because there is an insane antelope population up there. But even just the archery tag up there is 4 points. The rifle tag up there is... Where'd it go? At least 9 points. 9 gets you a shot. This guide I'm using, which is the thing that CPW puts out every year, makes it really easy. It tells you the bare minimum that somebody drew it with. It doesn't go into the percentages, so it's basically the dummies version of like, hey, how many points do I need to even think about this as an option? Yeah. Which I really like, because it's like, I know that things are not, it tells you right away, is this an option or is this not an option? Whereas if you get into like if it says it is, then you go figure out how much does it really actually take and go from there. So like I said, it's minimum 9. That means one person drew with 9. When you go look at it, there's people drawing it with 15 points.
Oh, wow.
So it's like,
dang,
they happen to have enough tags for a guy with 9 points to get it. So it means there's still people going to be putting in with more points than that next year to get it. So
yeah. Hey, Tim, Sorry, I know you showed us that book on the video. Just for the guys who might only be listening to the podcast, can you tell us what it's called?
Yeah. So it's Colorado Outdoors, Live Life Outside. It's their annual preference point issue. It is $3. It is the best $3 you will ever spend to get from them. It's Colorado Outdoors Magazine is the name of it, and I will give you the phone number to call if you want to get it. It's 1-800-417-8986, and it's awesome.
Perfect.
They also send you other stuff if you pay the money and get the subscription every year. I think I just have it added on when I do my license just to pay it and then it just happens. So it's pretty cheap. I want to say it's like $13 a year or something. It gives you a little break on the sticker price, but this one thing is worth it in my opinion, because it just makes it so easy. And like I said, it gets to the bare minimum before you go spend hours digging through all the charts. Because CPW puts out charts for everything, and like the deer chart is how many pages is this bad boy? Besides too many. It is, sorry, it's being slow. I should have had it up. It is 1,049 pages.
Oh my gosh.
And that's just deer. And I think elk's the longest one. Let's pull it up just so I think elk is the longest one.
You overwhelmed yet, Nick?
Yeah, I was overwhelmed like 30 minutes ago.
Yeah, I guess deer's the biggest one. So it's, like I said, it's 1,049 pages of crap. And one thing to know about that, Control F is your best friend.
Yes, that's what I was going to suggest.
If you don't Control F, you will lose your brain. So just like, and what it does is basically you Control F the first 5 parts of the code. So like you'll do Control F DM003, and it'll pull up all the deer, bucks, in 003, and I can find it really easily. It has 3 or 4 options then for, let's see, how many 003 bucks are there? There are 2 pages with 12 options for DM003 between muzzleloader, archery, rifle, all there. So it's super easy to find them. Then you just go through. There are some ranching for wildlife ones. So if you see one that's got a W in the code, so it's like DM003W. If you're non-resident, that sucks. You can't do anything. As a resident, there's a special program that CPW offers where somebody, rancher-wise, is willing to trade a bunch of doe tags and an occasional buck or 2 tag to people, and usually take a lot of points. Like this one I randomly pulled up takes 6 preference points, but somebody used as many as 18 to get it last year. So think about that. Somebody waited 18 years to get this tag.
Oh my gosh.
But anyway, so you get a chance to hunt their private ranch for a period, and usually it's doe tags. So basically they trade 90% of the doe tags they'd be issued as a landowner to state CPW to get a few more buck tags. And then CPW keeps 10% of the buck tags, and you get to hunt it for a season and stuff. That's what I did for my elk hunt back in January for the cows. It is a pretty awesome experience, but also pretty crazy. You should definitely go check that podcast out if you haven't, because that one was got some good story for us. So yeah, Pronghorn. Back to that, because I totally sidetracked myself too much, and that'll happen. So if it happens again, sorry guys, but
You're good.
That's the way this works. There's a lot of crap going on.
Oh yeah.
No doubt.
So Pronghorn. As for, like I said, most of the good rifle tags take a lot of points, and even the good archer tags take quite a few points. So if it is something you want to do, you should start building points as soon as possible, and probably want to have at least 5 before you get really serious about trying to draw any particular tag. There are some other options. If you have less points or if you have money, you can always buy a landowner tag. Landowner tags, which every species has this option except for moose, mountain goat, and bighorn sheep. But basically 10% of all tags west of I-25 and 15% of tags, all tags east of I-25 are given to landowners that apply for them. So they have to have a certain amount of land. The minimum is 160 acres in a particular unit. And you apply for them and you can get tags. Basically, there's 2 types of landowner tags. There's one that's good for anybody. It's called unrestricted. As a landowner, if you get it, you can sell it to anybody, give it to anybody, whatever. It's good for that animal. If you buy it, you have to buy it directly from the landowner that's named. They have to sign it. They give it to you. It's a voucher thing. You take that to a place where you buy a license, and you pay money for the actual tag. So even if you bought that tag, let's say you buy this landowner antelope voucher for $1,000. That's pretty cheap, but let's say it's a doe voucher. They sell $500 to $1,000 for a doe voucher. So you buy this doe voucher for $500. Well, now you're going to go pay your additional fees to the state for that tag. So again, if you're non-resident, there's no cost differential. So you're going to pay an additional $420.23 for that tag to the state on top of what you already paid that landowner for that tag. Obviously, if it's a once in a lifetime buck, that's a different story. You know, if you're gonna get a 093 Pronghorn buck tag, and that tag that's $2,000 from them and $420 from the state. Well, that tag takes, like I said, 9 points to draw. That's pretty cheap in the grand scheme of things to pay $2,000 to save yourself 10 years of waiting.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So there's some caveats to that. Where some tags go for way more. One place to find those, and I mention it in every single one of these articles, is Hunting Fool. It's a really awesome resource for landowner tags. None of them are up yet because, of course, they haven't been drawn. They don't go out until the same time the first draw goes out in June. So about June 10th, you should start checking Hunting Fool to see what is for sale in Colorado. Right now, to give you an idea, there are 3 tags up there, all in Nevada, for 2 for mule deer and 1 for elk. If you have $17,000 or more laying around, go check them out. If not, skip them.
Yeah, let me go grab it real quick. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll grab my checkbook.
Yeah, I know you didn't have you should have worked that overtime today, Sam. You'd have been okay.
Yeah, for real. That and 17 more.
Yeah. So anyway, so just a heads up. If you they can be really expensive. There's not really a super awesome way to know if it's a good price or not. I always what I've been told and what I kind of live by, and if I ever sell ours, what I'll live by is $500 per preference point needed to get it, plus $1 for every acre you get access to. So the other thing about it is you get access to whoever is selling it, every acre they have in the unit that's good for. So if my dad's sold, when he gives me the landowner voucher that we get occasionally for deer, I get access guaranteed. I mean, I get it anyways because I'm a kid, but you know how it works. But I get guaranteed access to our property. It'd be about 1,600 acres. Plus, I get the tag that, as a resident, takes 3 to 5 points to draw for our deer tags. So it'd be 1,500 plus the thing. We're looking at $3,000 minimum for that tag to sell it. For my dad to be interested in selling it, we're probably talking 10,000. But just a heads up. Anyways, so Pronghorn, like I said, that's a good option there. There are a lot of Pronghorn tags that are given out to landowners with really low years to draw them. Not really where we are, but up in the mountains and some of those other areas where there are a bunch, they draw them quicker than unit 3 where I was talking about, where it takes 9 points for me to draw it, or 9 points for you guys to even think about drawing it. A landowner draws it at 3 points or 2 points. So they're going to get them more often. So they're going to be willing to sell them. I mean, it's still going to be expensive, but they'll sell them semi more affordable than the 93 landowner, the one that takes 12 points. That one's going to be expensive.
Right.
So definitely, if you're thinking about that, do a little research into what it took for that landowner to get it. And then you'll have an idea of why. Well, is this really a wise choice for me to spend $5,000 here for this one? You know, if you have the money and you got nothing else to do, it's no big deal. But for the 3 of us, I think that's a conversation that our wives are not going to be too happy about. Hey, you're dropping $5,000 to go hunt what? Where?
Yeah, that's not
very
happening.
true.
Yeah, no. So just a heads up on that. But yeah, those are the main things for Pronghorn. Is definitely keep in mind landowner tags, because there are a bunch that float around. Especially if you're willing to just do a doe. It's pretty expensive for you guys, but if you were a Colorado resident, it'd be fun to just get out and do it. And every year I see them up on Hunting Fool, I always think about, well, can I talk my wife into $500 to go do that? And it hasn't happened yet, but one of these years it's going to happen.
Yeah. So
bear tags, I kind of mentioned that a lot of the bear options are best to just kind of pick what you get. There are really great options if you have a ton of points, and if you don't have a ton of points, there's a lot of good options too. One thing with bear tags is if you have a archery elk or archery muzzleloader, or archery elk or deer tag, or a muzzleloader deer or elk tag, there's probably what's called an add-on tag for bear where you're at. Let me pull up a code so I can make it make sense for somebody who's going to actually use this. So let's say you drew a archery elk tag in unit 4. It's a really common area to get an elk tag. If you do that, you can buy a bear tag that's a really high percentage bear tag really easily. You just buy it. No, you don't have to put it in for draw or anything. You just add it. It's called an add-on license. Same thing if you had a muzzleloader tag in Unit 4 or for elk or deer. So you can just add it on really easily. So those are a great option if you're already going. Bear tags, they made a lot more affordable than they used to be. For a non-resident, it's only $103.60. So, it's a lot. If you were debating between, should I buy a second archery elk tag, like to have the cow bull, or should I buy a bear tag? Obviously, it allows you to justify $103 versus the $420 for the cow. Or, if you went cow route, you spent the $420 on the cow, you buy the bear tag, you're still spending less than buying the $700 bull tag.
Mm-hmm.
So your wife's going to be happy about that one. So keep that in mind that there is a bunch of options for tags on bears, and it is a lot more affordable. One thing to note, there are no auction or raffle tags. I probably should have covered these with everything else, but what an auction or raffle tag is every animal, deer, elk, antelope, there are 2 auction tags and 2 raffle tags. So, and in the article I cover in detail who has it and who sells it and how it works and all that. But basically how it works is a conservation organization gets them and they put up like the raffle tags. They sell raffle tickets online. You buy those raffle tickets. If you get it, it's a statewide tag good for anything. One bull or one buck, whatever the species is, good anywhere, good for all the seasons. Super awesome, super open tag. And I said, there's 2 of those for raffle, and there's 2 for auction. If you have a bunch of money laying around and you really want to go hunting, buy the auction tag. Usually they're between $50,000 and $150,000 for deer, elk, or pronghorn. A lot of money. Now they have the same thing.
That's crazy.
For mountain goat, moose, and bighorn sheep, but there's only one of each. And the auction one is like a minimum $150,000. They've gone as high as $400,000.
Oh my gosh!
One of the guys I follow on Instagram won the raffle tag last year for mountain goat and shot this beautiful, beautiful billy. And so that it was kind of cool to see somebody I knew had it, and then another guy that works at a store called One Shot Gear got one of the other ones the year before. I forget which one, but he got one of the mountain goat. I forgot if he bought the auction or won the raffle for the mountain goat tag, but he had it the year before. So it's 2 years back to back, and somebody I kind of know had the mountain goat, one of the 2 mountain goat tags. So that was pretty cool to see.
That is cool. Is that what's known as the governor's tag?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yep. Cool. It's not called that in Colorado, but yeah, it's the same thing. It's the governor's tag in Wyoming and everything else. But
that's where it is, Wyoming. Okay.
Wyoming has it, Montana has it, Arizona has it. It's called the super draw, and they're a great option. I mean, especially if you win the lottery, shoot, put that money in. Colorado requires that I think it's either 75 or 85% of the money has to go directly to conservation. So the org puts it all back to CPW. It's the one I'm probably the most familiar with is the bighorn tag, which Bighorn Sheep Society gets. And so they get the money and they give it all back to CPW with this thing that says this has to be used for bighorn conservation. They're here's a check for $450,000.
It's pretty sweet.
So they give up 2 tags because they get the raffle and the auction. They make about $450,000, $500,000 between the 2. Write them a check, and it's boom, we have way more tags long term than we're going to have selling those for $3,000 a piece or whatever it is, $2,000 a piece.
Yeah, and that also helps justify it to those dudes who can spend $400,000 on a tag because it's going towards conservation. It's no big deal.
Must be nice.
Yeah.
One story I heard was the guy who bought the Montana bighorn one, I think it's back-to-back years even, owns Jimmy John's. And I want to say he's paid over $700,000 between the 2.
Yeah.
It's crazy, but it's I can't think of a better use of that guy's money.
That's true.
Freaky fast cash right there.
That's right.
Sounds like we need to open some Jimmy John's, but yeah. Okay, so let's get into the moose, mountain goat, and sheep ones because those are, like I said, they're a little more complicated in some ways, but they're pretty cool. So we'll start with moose. So the way it works is you have to have 3 points, and then you can start getting what are called weighted points. So you have to buy 3 points to get your first preference points. And then each year after that, you get a weighted point. So when you look at the chart, it'll say like 3 + 2, or like 3 and 2, or 3 and 5, or 3 and 7. So you've got 3 up front, and you have however many additional years you put in as the second one. And like I said, when you put in for it, and most people are just buying preference points because there's not really an option to draw with less than about 3 and 5 for any of them. You are paying $50 as a resident to add to your points, or you're paying $100 as a non-resident. This year I made the decision that I'm going to start my mountain goat climb. I've decided, like, I'm in a spot where I can afford it finally to pay the $50 a year. And if I draw it at 27 years, which is about realistic, I'll be 57. So I won't be 60 yet. And I hopefully will be in good enough shape I can go hunt a mountain goat. If it takes me 35 years, I'll be 65, and I still hopefully will be in good enough shape I can do it. So somewhere in the 27 to 35 year range is what I'm looking at getting this tag. And so between now and then, I'll pay $50 a year plus the $7 and change for application fee. So I'm going to pay, we'll just say 58 by the time it's all said and done, $58 a year for the next 25 to 30 years to get this tag.
Wow.
But
Well, best of luck to you.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm in no hurry to get it, because I obviously want to get it when I have, my kids are a little older, and either they're gone or they're old enough where if I go for like the season for it's like 15 days, or if I'm gone for 15 days, my wife's not going to kill me. Because you draw that tag, you got to commit and do it. Like it's a it's a once in a not necessarily once in a lifetime. You could draw it again if you started early enough. If you started putting in points at 12, which is something that a lot of people do, is they put in for points for their kids.
Yeah.
And it used to not cost the extra money, so it was no big deal. Like I really wish, like it didn't cost money till about 5 years ago. I really wish my dad had done that for me when I was little. I would have, I'd be 17 or 18 points in at this point if my dad had thought about it, and I had like fought for it when I was 12. To either towards, I realistically I could draw all 3 if that were the point, because it takes about 25 to 30 to draw any of them. If I were 18 each, I'd be in a lot better spot. So one thing to note, there are some moose tags that can be drawn with less. They are. Let's break for a second.
Yeah, we'll hang tight.
And guys, I'll probably have to hop off here pretty quick, just because we got things we got to do. We got to celebrate a birthday party and everything. So,
yeah, cool. Well, I think we're good. Okay, so anyway, so the moose tags, or any of these, the moose, the non-goat, or the bighorn sheep, the tag when you finally draw it, as of right now, for residents, $319.58. Obviously, that's going to go up a bunch between when I get there, so I'm planning on $400. At that point, you're invested. I'll be in $2,000, or if I'm in 30 years, I'll be in $1,500. What's another $400 at that point? Nothing.
Right.
Mm-hmm. If you're a non-resident, it's $2,443.10. So it's pretty expensive still. But again, you're in $100 a year at, say 27 years, you're in $2,700. So basically you just doubled your cost overall at that point to get it. So if that's really something you want, the raffle tag, obviously for those, is definitely the way to do it. The raffle odds are better than the normal draw odds, and you can win the raffle at 0 points. So, you might get really lucky and win the raffle. And it doesn't eat up your once in a lifetime. So certain of those tags are once in a lifetime. It doesn't eat that up. So if you win the raffle or win the auction, even if you do it multiple times, it doesn't eat up your once in a lifetime. They may get, if you win the raffle 3 times, they may investigate how did you do this or what happened, because that's obviously going to look shady. But if you win the auction tag 3 times, they're just going to say thanks for the money. So definitely something to look at. And I know, like I said, the Bighorn one, that's a really great organization that does theirs. They do a huge conference thing where they do the actual auction, and it's super cool. I got to go one time, and it's awesome. And I got to see the moose tag get raffled off once. So I was at the SCI banquet for that, and I want to say it was like 207,000 is what it finally went for. And it's just cool.
Wow.
It's a cool experience if you know when it's going to happen to get there and do it. So Ducks Unlimited gets one of the other big ones, and they have a huge mega banquet that's downtown and costs a ton of money here. And my dad got to go to that once, and like somebody spent like there are multiple items that sold for over $100,000 at this thing. And so it's just kind of like, it's cool to go. And if you're just going to go and hang out and have a good time and eat some food and have some drinks and maybe buy a raffle ticket and something that the prizes are going to be stuff that you're not going to normally buy. So it might be stuff that like, you may spend $50 for a raffle ticket, but it may be something that's life-changing. So
yeah, absolutely.
Definitely something to look at. And those conservation banquets are always a blast too. So definitely keep that in mind if that's what you want to do. And I think that's pretty much the main points on this stuff. What questions do you guys have?
Man, kind of same as before. I can't say I have any off the top of my head. Just it's so much. It's so dense in just the information. And I'm right now, for me, like I mentioned, I'm going to have to go back and listen to this episode again to get the full grasp on, kind of pick apart the pieces that are specifically interesting or applicable to me and what I'm interested in. And then I encourage our viewers and our listeners to do the same, and especially with those articles that we got that'll be rolling out this week that you put together. Definitely be hitting those up on the specific areas that are relevant to you guys. So
yeah, and then listeners out there, if you have a question, just shoot it into Fall Obsession and they'll get it over to me and I can try to answer it. And if I can't, I can at least tell you who can. CPW does have a really good resource called Hunt Planner. You call them during the week. I forget it's like 9 to 5 type hours, 9 to 4 type hours. You talk to a real person who they're not going to tell you like elk are here, elk are not there, but they're going to say like, this is what to expect in that area. This how many people are up there, this kind of stuff like that. They're really helpful. I know a lot of people have used them and they realize like, hey, you're coming up for like a once in a long time trip. You want to have a good experience. You want to bring your family. We'll find you somewhere that kind of works for all that. So definitely keep that in mind too.
Awesome. Well, Tim, I really appreciate all the research and work that you did to kind of prepare for this episode, those articles that are rolling out again. I know you've spent some time get all that together. So really appreciate that. And you taking the time today to sit down with us and talk with us about it. So.
Yeah, absolutely, Sam. It's good to be here.
For sure. If you are a listener at this point, and if you've made it this far, it's probably because you're planning a Colorado trip. This is not one of our normal hunting story podcasts and stuff. Like I said, we did something similar to this last year with Tim, trying to do it every year, I think, talking about some of these specifics and at least give you guys a resource that y'all can use to go back and hopefully better plan your hunt. So if you're still with us, thanks for listening. If you're watching the video, thanks for watching. If you haven't already, head on over to our social media pages on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Hit that subscribe, follow, like button, whatever it is. Go subscribe to our YouTube channel. We got multiple new videos coming out every single week right now, including new episodes of both our Texas Dirt series and our My Obsession series that we're working through right now. Social medias, and then fallobsession.com. That's our website. That's the hub. That's where you can go to find all of our content, including educational articles like what we've referenced that Tim's doing for us. And we got stuff covering all sorts of different topics in the hunting and outdoor world. So head on over there, explore videos, articles, recipes, our gear and apparel. Be sure you check some of that out. And we actually do have some new spring designs that are about to be available for pre-order too. So keep an eye out for those. Whatever podcast app you're listening on, or if you're listening on the YouTube channel, be sure that you follow, subscribe, leave us a review, all that good stuff. And that helps us boost us in those numbers and get our podcasts out to more people to listen and everything like that. Finally, Ridge Rock Hunt Company, they are the partnering sponsor. They drive our podcast. Derek and Lacey over at Mississippi do a fine job helping others book their hunts. So Tim's helped with a lot of stuff as far as kind of the do-it-yourself standpoint and some info on that. if you are looking to book a whitetail hunt, or really a lot of different species hunt, they don't just do whitetail, they do everything in North America. It doesn't have to be Colorado. Ridge Rock Hunt Company is your answer. Go check them out. We got a link to their website in the description on this video or podcast, whatever you're listening on. So, gentlemen, appreciate you guys. Tim, Nick, thank y'all.
Sounds good. I got one last thing to add. Just remember, deadline is April 5th at 8 p.m. Don't be late.
April 5th. Write it down. Put it on your phone.
That's at the top of my page long notes.
Yeah. April 5th is the day. Turn on a reminder. So, all right, guys, we're going to hang it up. Appreciate y'all listening to another Fall Obsession podcast episode. We'll be back again next week, and we'll catch you then.
We'll see you later.